Hello and welcome to Economics Unit 4. This video is all about government spending. Now, we live in a nation where we're used to seeing a lot of services provided by the government. And I'm not just talking about water and electricity. There's the WIC program, there's welfare, there's all kinds of social services out there to help people financially for a lot of different reasons. And that wasn't always the case. In fact, services like that have only really started to appear as recently as the 1930s. In the 1930s, America entered what was known as the Great Depression. And the Great Depression was a time of poverty in this country that very few people alive in this country have ever witnessed. A great many of the people who did live through the Depression in the 1930s in America are starting to pass away. In the Great Depression, things got so bad that it became very clear that the free market by itself was not going to take care of itself. The government had to get involved or things would not get better, not anytime soon. And this is the major cause for the huge increase in government growth that we've been seeing ever since. The increase of many new government services. And the big controversial idea that's behind a lot of those services is the idea of income redistribution. Income redistribution is government activity that takes income from one group of people through taxation and uses it to help another group of people that is in need. Examples that exist today of this include the WIC program to help young mothers, food stamps, free education for people in the lower income brackets, for people of racial backgrounds who have been historically discriminated against, any kind of federal benefits that come from the government that help someone out financially comes through taxation, and it could be taxes that are paid by someone that won't actually benefit from that service. That's income redistribution, redistributing people's money, income, across the country to meet the greatest need. Another symbol of government growth is merit goods and services and demerit goods and services. This is another way that American government can influence our decisions and our behavior. Merit goods and services are the types of goods and services that are considered by society to have a good influence. Things society thinks people should do more of. For example, dance, art, education, and sports. All of these things are things that the government helps to encourage by spending money, by investing in programs that encourage those types of activities that society says are good things. Inversely, there are demerit goods and services. Demerit goods and services are the types of goods and services that are considered by society to have a negative influence. Things society thinks people should do less of, such as gambling, smoking, and drinking. And now in this case, instead of the government funding these things, they tax them. So things like alcohol, cigarettes, gambling, where it is allowed to exist, there is a lot of taxes being put on those things as a way to try to disincentivize people from engaging in them, or punishing people that choose to do so anyways. Now, in the process of income redistribution and supporting merit goods and services, the federal government does purchase many different things, goods and services, from businesses. In fact, total government purchases represent 20% of America's gross domestic product. That means for American businesses, American government is actually one of the biggest customers. What kind of things is American government buying? Well, many things. The 5 largest of which include Social Security, national defense, interest on debt on the many loans America holds. It has to pay the interest on its loans, just like you and I would. Income security, that means different kind of programs that help people out in case of emergency, like if they go on disability. And finally, Medicare, which is medical insurance for our citizens, our usually retired citizens who are age 65 and older. And it is through all of those things I've mentioned so far that we are able to measure how big government has grown. The indicators of government growth are size of government workforce and government spending. If those things, if even just one of them is starting to grow, then we know the size of the government and its influence is growing equally. And the opposite is true. If those things start to shrink or are cut back, then we know the size of the government, its influence on our lives, is also starting to shrink, for better or for worse. Now, how is the government spending all this? Well, again, that's the whole idea of income redistribution, is it gets its money primarily through taxes. Also bonds and loans. We talked about that in earlier videos, but primarily taxation. And there's a lot of different attitudes towards how taxation should be carried out. This is a very controversial topic even to this day. There are three big categories of how people think taxes should be managed. One idea is progressive tax. A progressive tax means the more you make, then the bigger percentage of your income that you should pay towards the rest of the country. Another way is the proportional tax, sometimes known as the flat tax. This is a tax that takes the same percentage out of everybody's income. Rich, poor, in between, doesn't matter. One number, one percentage for everybody. This actually has not happened at all in American history, but it comes up often as a suggestion, as a proposal. And finally, there is the regressive tax. The regressive tax is the tax that takes a larger percentage of lower incomes than it does of higher incomes. So a person making a lot less money, someone in the lower income brackets, is going to pay a larger percentage of their income in taxes than, say, a millionaire would. A millionaire would pay a smaller percentage of their income in taxes. And then finally, the only other way government can pay for things when it's already spent all its tax money, all its tax income, is through a budget deficit. It just gets the money on loan. Budget deficit is when government spending exceeds what it's earned in taxes for the year. So if it spends more than it makes, it just gets a loan. I know I've told you many times to be careful of this. Well, the government just does it. They do it all the time. In fact, almost every single president in your lifetime and mine has engaged in budget deficit. And that's all I have to say today about government spending. If you have any questions in class, let me know. Thank you.